Hello everyone and welcome back to CodeSploit's exclusive series on mastering Linux. I know guys, I have been a bit late on this video as my exams were going on and I'm sorry for that, but today we are going to take a look at managing the file permissions in Linux, which is very crucial if you want to use Linux. So without any delay, first let's start off. My terminal, I'll explain you what to do and how everything works. First of all, we will do ls and just view what all files are there in the folder in which So let me just navigate to a directory where there is lots of files and folders and similar stuff which we can test on. So you can see if we do ls, we will see that there are these many files and these many folders. Okay, so fine, let's take a look at the long list of ls. Okay, so as you can see here, we have our first of all we have our file permissions. We can see how many links it is attached to, the owner of the file, the group owner of the file, the size of the file, and finally the time and date and the name of the file. So let's take a look at how to understand these files and all this stuff. So let me just copy this to a text editor so I can just explain you better. So I'll just copy this to this file over here. Fine, I'll open it with the text editor so just you can understand it. So I'll just copy it. Fine. So as you can see, our terminal displays this all if we do a lsl. So let's try to understand what all these are. And as you can see, this is a file actually. Xfce is a file and add-ons is a folder over there. So let's understand how file permissions work. I'll just copy this and just paste it here. So Control V, fine. First of all, this D signifies that it's a directory. It's not a file, and if it is in this manner, let me just copy this two side by side so you can just do a better comparison. Control V, fine. So if this is this, which it means a file, and if this is a D, this means a directory. Fine. Next we come to R. R stands for read, this, W stands for write, and X stands for execute. So the folder add-ons has got read, write, and execute permissions for the owner of the file. Okay, in case of the file xfce.txt, we have read and write permissions only, no executable permissions. That's why it's in form of a dash for the owner. Next we come up to read permissions, no write permissions, and only executable permissions for the group owner. And in case of the xfce.txt file, we have only read permissions, no write permissions, no executable permissions in case of the group owner. And finally, in case of other users, we have only read, no write, and no executable permissions in case of the xfce.txt file. And in case of the add-ons folder, we have executable permissions and the read permissions only for other use on the lib. Fine. So let's come to understand how all this works. So for the purpose, I'll just randomly copy this one. For example, I'll just copy this and fine. There. So let me just separate out. First, I'll just repeat it again. This is a file followed by read permissions, write permissions, executable permissions for the owner. Next, read permissions, no write permissions, executable permissions for the group. And finally, read permissions, no write permissions, and executable permissions for other users. So let me just explain this. In Linux, we have different values for various permissions in Linux. R stands for read, which value goes to 4. Next, W stands for write, which value stands for 2. And finally, X, which is executable, stands for 1. which is actually the executable permissions. So in Linux, if you just add these three up, read, write and execute permissions, this value total comes up to 4 plus 2 plus 1. Oops. 4 plus 2 plus 1, which stands to 7. So 7 is the maximum executable permissions which we can give to a specific file. Now let's understand how all this works. So for basic stuff, let me just show you. Let me just write up expression for permission in case of a file. So this is a file, rwx followed by r dash dash followed by r dash dash. So I guess you can understand this very clear. So let's start. R is 4, W is 2, write permissions, executable permissions is 1, followed by a space. Again, R stands is 4, no executable permissions means 0, no write permission. Next, read permissions 4, no executable permissions 0, no executable permissions, no write permissions is 0. So let's quickly add this up and let's see what it sums up to. 4 to 1 sums up to 7, 4 plus 0 stands up to 4, and 4 plus 0 stands up to 4. So chmod is the command in Linux for changing the file permission. So if we do a chmod followed by 744 followed by the file name, we will give these permissions to a specific file. So this is how it works. Okay, so let's take up another case of the readme file. I'll just copy this whole to here. Fine. Okay, so as you can see, this file, this readme.md file has got this permissions here. So just copy it. Okay, so just quickly I'll just separate it out. This is a file, read, write, execute, space, read, write, execute, space, read, write, execute. So this has got read, write, executable permissions, none for any of the users. Read 4, write value 2, and no executable means 0. Fine. Read value 4, no write, no executable. Fine. Read value 4, no write, no executable. So let's quickly just sum it up. And 4 plus 2 plus 0 stands up to 6, 4 plus 0 stands up to 4, and 4 plus 0 stands up to 4. So the file permissions is 644. So this readme.md file has got a 644 permissions, file permissions. Fine. Now let's take a look at some executable files. For example, this setup.py file. Setup.py file, as you can see, it is just differentiated from the other file, normal files, by highlighting bold the fonts. So let me just copy this and I'll explain you how everything works. Just copy this, Ctrl A, Ctrl V. Fine. So first of all, as you can see, this is the file permissions of that file. So I'll just copy this again and just get below. Okay, so let me just quickly separate it out for the owner, the group owner and other users. So what this implies, we have the read, write, executable, all file permissions for the owner. We have only read and executable files, executable permission for the group owner, and read and executable files for the only other users of the group. So let's just quickly sort out and let's see how this works. 4 is the value for read, write value is 2, executable permissions is 1. Fine. Read value is 4, no executable permissions is 0, x means executable is 1. Again, 4, 0, 1. So let's just be quick and just sum it up what this all stands for. 4 plus 2 plus 1 stands up to 7, 4 plus 1 stands up to 5, and 4 plus 1 stands up to 5. So the file permission, this file setup.py has got is 755 permissions, which means the owner of the group can read, write and execute permissions. The group owner can only read and execute permissions, and the other group users can also use the read and execute permissions. So this file has got 755 permissions. So let's give our executable permissions to another file and let's see how it works. For example, this new loop.py. So I'll be just giving this new loop.py executable permissions. So what I will do a chmod 755 followed by new loop.py. So I have just typed in this, and let's see again lsl. This. So as you can see, this got differentiated from the others as it got highlighted. So let's just copy this and let's analyze what just happened. So I'll just copy it here. Fine. You can see this file permissions which it has got. So let me just copy it and just analyze and just dissect it further. So this means that it is a file read, write, execute for the new owner, read, no write and executable permissions for the group, and read, no write and executable permissions for other users. So let's just quickly sum this up. Read is 4, write is 2, the executable is 1. So 401 again 401. Just quickly just sum it up. 4 plus 2 plus 1 adds up to 7, 4 plus 1 adds up to 5, and 4 plus 1 adds up to 5. So remember, we gave us 755 permissions, that's chmod 755 to new loop.py. So you can understand as this file permissions changes the file permissions from the previous values, which was just a simple not executable file, and for executing a file we use this new look.py. This signifies that we are executing a file. So if we press on enter, this file will get just executed, and it's just as simple as that. So you can understand how all this stuff works. So this only for today's tutorial. I'll be looking into more depth in the next tutorial or the part 2 of changing file permissions. See you in the next video.